shoulders. So we might be able to kind of rock the body that way. There's all sorts of possibilities there. Okay, anybody got any ideas about the other techniques?
Maybe, is it oscillating?
Mm-hmm.
Lifting a leg and then moving it around.
So you might be lifting something, you might be, can I lift your leg? So there might be some small movements involved. There may be some large movements involved or small oscillatory movements, okay? A lot of these terms are sort of interchangeable, so just be aware. It's where does one technique finish and another technique start? And also when we start to introduce these kinds of techniques, they start to blend with the other techniques you already have, and so you have a cross-fertilization of what you're doing at that point. And then we have names for those, don't we, Glor? But it's, does it matter what we call it? Not so much at that point, you know, because we're then working much more organically with the body. That's why I get excited, okay? So oscillation also might be the sort of smaller movements that are a little bit like rocking, but rocking is a little bit more definite with that, yeah? And then we have vibration. Anybody know what vibration is? Yeah, it's a shake. It's a shake, isn't it? Yeah. So what we're doing with vibration is we're actually vibrating the tissues. Do you know what the difference between that and rubbing is? What's rubbing?
Friction.
Show me what rubbing is. Yeah. Notice that sound? So if I'm rubbing, then we're going to cross those fibres and go across the material, and there's a sound involved with that. When I'm using vibration, I'm just going to come around so you can see. It's actually, I'm placing my hand on, and I'm then agitating, I suppose, just vibrating those tissues. And I could do that with the whole hand, with the heel of the hand. I might do a digital vibration in different ways. So I'll give you an idea of the three different types and how they fit in. Good. There's a lot of history to these things, and I'm going to give you a handout afterwards because different trainers have developed these techniques and called them other things. Like in myofascial release, when I went to do myofascial release training, what I've always known as rocking, they call rebounding. Now, rebounding is quite a nice name for it because very often what you're doing is moving and letting go and watching the rebound and then keeping that going. Yeah? So I like the idea of it being rebounding. That gives me another sense of how it works. Yeah? And we have our own guy in MTI who calls it rhythm mobility because he's actually combined movement with massage, with the other kinds of massage we do. And there's also the Traeger. Milton Traeger developed his own Traeger method. And there's also, let me think, pulsing. Pulsing is developed from more of a kind of a psychotherapy, a body psychotherapy. So it's actually used much more for the emotional, mental self as well. Okay? So there's a kind of tradition. I think in all massage we've used movement, but some schools have taken that and run with that in a whole different way. Yeah? What do you think it's good for? What do you think the movement might be good for?
Joints.
So the joints, what do you think it does for the joints?
Just mobilise them, helps them to keep.
Yeah.
Thank you. Supple.
Supple? Love it, love it.
Yeah.
Okay, so for joints might be good.
Eases the muscle.
Yeah, so excellent for tensions within the muscle. You know, you can do your petrissage and your compression and you can keep going on those things and nothing's working. Yeah, have you come across that yet? You keep trying the same things and actually it's not happening, nothing's working, nothing's releasing. These are techniques that you can add in because they sometimes help release in a different way. So mobilising, relaxing the tissues, very good. There's also like the digital vibration work is also very useful for kind of scar tissue stuff as well. Scar tissue. Anything else, Draw?
For people who forgot how to relax.
Thank you very much. So one of the things that you often get is people who are very stiff in their movements. Can you be a little bit stiff? Right. Now, and you keep trying to do things with them and they're very stiff. Well, very often, because what we're going to do with these kind of movements is bounce and roll. And they can't sustain their own restriction of that. It's not, did you feel that, Brad? It's like there's this kind of rhythmic movement that their brain just has to switch off. They cannot maintain that stiffness with. So anything, and we're going to do quite a lot of that kind of bounce. See, works really well. Okay, so I'm going to try and break that down for you now into my bite-sized chunks. So I think the first thing I'm going to teach you, any other questions before I go on?
Are there any times it's contraindicated?
Thank you. I love it. When people come up with things that I should have mentioned. So when do you think this is not such a good idea?
And they've got osteoarthritis,
Say more about that. Okay. What makes you think that osteoarthritis would be a
stiff.
So,
yeah, stiff and sore? Well, here's the thing, because this can be taken from the what? Do you understand the term when I say gross movement, big movement? So we can go big, we can go really big movement, and we can really swing the arms all over the place, or we can really pay attention and look at the range of movement that's possible. Make sense? So is it okay for osteoarthritis?
Yeah.
Might be. Unless it was inflamed and sore and actually really doesn't need any massage on it at all. So there are situations where it's really acute and painful. You don't want anything on it, okay? But even then you've got vibration at a very light level, which would be okay most of the time. Any other conditions? Because this is good. Anything else you can think of? Scoliosis? Say more. You're going to not say anything after that, aren't you?
Well, no one's saying anything, so I got my mouth.
So it's good because this is where it can be helpful as well as contraindicated. So scoliosis is what?
Curvature of the spine.
Okay, and what happens with curvature of the spine when it comes to the muscles? Anybody? Come on, give her.
Quite tight.
So some areas get tight and some areas get quite loose.
So overusing.
Yeah. So if we work gently, do you think that would be all right? Yeah. Yeah. So it's actually quite useful to normalise and to balance the muscle tensions along the spine, but gently. Okay, we're going to go gently. There's one situation you do have to be quite careful with. I'm kind of giving you a hint here.
Lower back pain.
Lower back pain. Okay, so with lower back pain, sometimes if you do a lot of this kind of rocking movement, it can irritate and aggravate that situation. Okay, if I do smaller movements, maybe that would be better. So any of you who have lower back problems, then would you please just let your partners know so we don't have anyone over-treating you. Anything else? Anything else?
A hip injury, hip problem.
Yeah, so actually, depending on the problem, it can be very useful. So it loosens up the hip beautifully. But again, it would depend on the severity. You know, let's just see how they are. Maybe do it lightly to start with, see what the response to that is, and then try it a little bit more next time. Yeah? Good. Anything else, Troy? No? I can't think of anything. Simon, anything else? Anything else? I'll give you my handout, Simon, and then, no, that one. And then they might do. And this is a bit like, how many of you can dance? and get a rhythm. How many of you can dribble a basketball? You knew what I was going to do. That was very good. Did that look anything like it? Okay. All right, so you can dribble a basketball, you can dance, you've got a little bit of rhythm, you can feel that. Okay. What we need to do now is to get into your client's rhythm, your receiver's rhythm. And in order to do that, we have to start it off, but we kind of need to get out of the way a little bit so that we can give it a chance to establish that rhythm. Okay? And that's not easy for some. It's much easier for others. So a bit like dribbling a basketball, what you're going to do is use your hand on the sacrum, and you might see that I'm just to one side of that, because that gives me a good purchase. Okay? And can you see I am rocking that backwards and forwards, but I'm actually following his movement. Come closer, because you need to see. So I'm actually following his movement now. I can increase the movement, but I'm still allowing his body to dictate where it comes back.
So you're only pushing?
I'm only pushing, thank you for helping to... I'm only pushing and I'm following how it comes back. Okay? Once I have the rhythm, I might go side to side. Can you see how I am just helping that movement along? I can increase it. I can let it go lower.
But you just use your fingertips.
I'm just using my fingertips. So really what I want is his body to generate. It's a bit like those silver ball things. You know, the ones that go click, click, backwards and forwards? Okay. So, and it's like everything else we do in massage, how you start and finish is important. Okay, so we're going to do that. I'm going to just get you doing this to start with, I think. Maybe I'll go up the body a little bit. But just getting that is one of the most important pieces. So if I want to, I can begin to pull him more than I push him. I'm going to show you where this can go to. And then I can dictate with my other hand what happens here. So I can stretch and move. And do you see where you can go with this? Okay. There's a lot of ways you can go with this once you've got that idea of allowing the body to move. Here's what people do that makes it not work so well. Okay? They like this. Does that work?
No.
No. Or they're like that. Does that work?
No.
See, now, because I've done this a long time, I can kind of do that and take my hand off, and I'm really happy with that. I am really happy with that. But I want you to get to that stage of feeling really happy with that. So to start with, have some contact. And then what we might do is go up the spine. How's that? Yeah, up and down. So we're working along the same plane. And how about we come to the legs? Watch what happens with his back when I'm working on the legs here. What do you see?
Movement.
Huh? How much is it moving? A lot, right? So I can really mobilize his lower back by just rocking his legs. What else am I mobilizing when I'm rocking his leg? There's movement in his feet, yes. What else is really moving? His hip. Okay, good. So you see how this can be used? Right, I think that's probably enough to start with. I want to give you that to start with, okay? And then we'll come back together.